Community Resources, Part 2. DARTS, Creating Connections that Enrich Aging.
Did that make sense? All right, good. Sliding fee scale is kind of a jargon thing we talk about. All right, so how many of you would love to have someone in your home every evening fixing your meals for you so you didn't have to go home and fix dinner? So we all think that's a great idea. Why don't we do it? It's expensive. What if they don't use your recipe?
Yeah, they don't use your recipe or they're a stranger.
Good point. They're a stranger. All right. Go ahead. It's intrusive. Lovely, convenient, especially if they do the dishes afterwards. I don't want them to just fix the meal. Could you clean up too? And yet, as wonderful as that is, we might be a little resistant to that. So if you're an older adult, on top of all the other, I don't want to give up my independence, I think you're telling me I'm no longer competent to take care of my life, they also might have some very legitimate reasons for being hesitant to bring services into their home. So let's talk. We've done presentations on family caregiving strategies and on how to have those critical conversations, and I'm not going to go through all of that again. But I just want to highlight some of the reasons they might be resistant, and then some of the things that you can do to help overcome their resistance. So, all right. First thing you would want to do is, as we've talked about over these weeks, is include them in the conversation so that as you go through this assessment, you do not say, look, Mom, at all these checks I've got here, you need to have help. I suggest that you go through this with your parent, their concerns, your concerns, and so that this is something you're partnering with them on. This is their aging journey that you're walking with them. So make them part of the conversation. Be positive. Don't be scary. Be positive. We can do this together. We can make this better together. That's better than, oh my word, you just can't drive anymore. You're going to kill somebody. All right, maybe, how can we find solutions is a better approach to take. Be patient. There is no one who's going to walk into my life and tell me how I should run my life and expect me, reasonably, to change my life. And so you have to be patient with the fact that you may be suggesting a change in their life that even if they know in their heart you're right, give them time, give them grace, give them a period to come around, and maybe have a series of conversations, not arguments, about how to make things different and how to make things better. And then involve others, not as in ganging up on Mom or Dad, but as in we're here to support you. We're going to figure out what you need to have a great, safe aging journey, and we're all here to help you. All right. Suggest a relative try it, or better yet, help them identify friends of theirs that have tried the services. Remember when that Boy Scout troop came and helped George, and Mary went out and served the Kool-Aid? Wasn't that cool? They seemed to actually enjoy having the kids around. Maybe we could try that. Why don't we talk to them about how it went? Or, did you see that car over there delivering Meals on Wheels to Mary? I wonder how the food is. Maybe we could ask her. Maybe it's something, at least once a day. I bet I'm a little tired of cooking meals every day. Maybe Mom or Dad's a little tired of it as well. And so we could ask them to come in. How about just one day a week to try? So start with someone else and then integrate it into the possibilities for your older adult. Accept their right to reject it. As I said in one of my presentations, you've never been 80. They have. So maybe the world looks a little bit different to them than it does to you. Be open to listening to that, to understanding their perspective, and then helping them from their point of view.
I just have a comment.
Absolutely. Everything I say gets trumped by their safety is in jeopardy. Everything I say goes out the window if they say no and now they're no longer safe. Now they're, bottom line, we as a community need to act on behalf of their safety. And that's when you get adult protection involved, or a conservator, or a guardianship if need be. Safety trumps conversation every time. All right. And then encourage their healthy independence. That's what they want. That's what you want. Maybe that's the theme of the conversation, is that we're all in this together for your aging excellence. And I know that's my word, but I think that's their word as well, if they could frame it that way. So then what about those long-distance caregivers? Are any of you in this room a long-distance caregiver? It's a tough road. And the family members that are there, that are dealing with it, if there are family members there dealing with the crisis day in and day out, cannot imagine the stress on the long-distance caregiver. There are things that the long-distance caregiver can do for themselves and for their loved one, and so I just want to spend a few minutes talking about that. First of all, find your own system of support. If you are here and the person you care about is thousands of miles away, at least you know there is a room full of caregivers that work at DHS and can understand at least some of the stress and the worry that you have. Seek them out so that you have support for yourself. And then find a neighbor, mom or dad's best friend, a church member, the parish priest, who is just somebody who's in and out of their life regularly that you use as your spotter. Don't put that on the family. Don't put that on your siblings, because then they feel like they're tattling on mom and dad, and it puts stress on the relationship that is going on between those caregivers and those receivers. So find someone else, someone that you grew up with, or a neighbor that you know well, and just call them once in a while and say, hey, how's it going? Just to kind of stay connected, see what's happening, keep in regular contact. Email contact, if your parents email, phone contact, absolutely. How many of you can Skype? I was taught to Skype by a 93-year-old lady who uses it to keep in touch with her grandchildren who are scattered throughout the United States. It's an amazing gift that you can set up for your older loved one, assuming they're not technophobes. You know, I stopped keeping up with technology when DVR came out. So I now know that DVR is passé too, and nobody does that anymore. I don't know what's next. But the point is, so I understand those older adults who don't want a computer screen. But really, Skype is rather intuitive. I figured it out with the help of a 93-year-old lady. So maybe that's another option for that long-distance caregiver. And then please don't overlook your opportunity to be the family researcher. If your parent is diagnosed with Alzheimer's, with Parkinson's, with Lou Gehrig's disease, with congestive heart failure, be the one who's got the time to find local resources. And then don't say to the caregiver that's there, here's something you should read. You're not helping them. Synthesize it for them. Give them the highlights, and then say, and if you think this will help, here is a way that you can find out more about it. Oftentimes, the caregiver who's there, the primary caregiver, doesn't maybe get a moment to themselves until 10, 11 o'clock at night. And to have someone else who's got their back, who's keeping an eye on what's current, on other possibilities, can be a real blessing. We had a family who had 5 children taking care of mom and dad. Mom and dad were both in their late 80s and still living in their home. And there were 5 children, and 4 of them took rotated weekends. and they would be there putting dad through his physical therapy, helping mom with getting dressed, doing whatever it took, cleaning the house, doing the laundry, whatever it took on the weekends, because there was a home health aide that they could afford to have 5 days a week. And then the family members rotated the other 4 days a week. And the 5th child lived in Santa Barbara. And so once a year, you can't imagine what it's like. Can you tell I was at one time a long-distance caregiver? You can't imagine what it's like to worry about mom and dad from halfway across the country. And so 2 weeks out of every year, she would give all of her vacation time to go be the caregiver for mom and dad for 2 weeks. Problem was, it was an amazing gift she was trying to give her family. Problem was, she had no idea what the physical therapy routine was that dad had to go through, and she had no idea that mom didn't like softener in her whites. She only liked softener in her colored clothes. And so then the other sisters would try and tell her, and she was really just trying to do her best. And so then they had all of the strife because you're not doing a great job of taking care. All I'm saying is, if partnering with you on your caregiver journey, there are long-distance caregivers involved, take a moment to imagine what it's like to be in their shoes and to care about someone. Your heart is ripped out for that person, and you can't be there every day. So it's just another challenge of the family communications. All right. So now let's get to some local resources. These are Minnesota-wide and metropolitan resources, and we've talked about them at every one of my presentations, but what's exciting now is that on these lists where it said about the resources, you now know the keywords to key in. So if you go to minnesotahelp.info, you can find information about services for seniors in any county in Minnesota, and now you know to put in homemaking service or chore service or mobile meals, or you know what the phrase is. Now that you know what the deficit is, where you need to help your parents or your loved one, now you know the phrase to key in. If you're looking for help for someone across the country, Elder Care Locator is a nationwide resource. And again, now you know the phrases to put in there. All right. Do you have any questions for me? This feels kind of like closure to me. I kind of like you guys. Again, if you would, on your evaluations, I don't care about answering those questions, but if you can tell me what of this series mattered to you, what of this series bored you, what of this series you wish to learn more of, I'd appreciate it. And then on this form, if you would like to get a call from a caregiver coach to answer a specific question, I mean, maybe in my presentation on housing, you thought, well, that wouldn't work for my family because, well, then just fill in this basic information and housing, and I'll have a caregiver coach give you a call and help you with your specific situation. All right? I so much appreciate the time you have given me. You can give somebody $20 and figure out a way to get that, to earn another $20. But you give someone an hour of your life, you don't get that back. So thank you for the gifts that you have given me over the last 2 months. It has been my pleasure. Thanks. Oh, thanks. So these are the handouts from the dementia and memory loss, if any of you are the ones who asked me to bring more copies of that.